Hey, my friends, welcome back to the UNCOMMODiFiED podcast. This episode is the third in that 14-part series that we've started. I know it's going to be long, but I want to keep the episodes a little bit shorter and with some challenges at the end. What we're going to do in this episode is we're going to explore another one of the 13 characteristics, the 13 actions that I've identified, the passions of those who are unending legacy leavers. The uncommodified, excuse me, the uncommodified, the unenders, who, even though many of them are gone now, they still are with me and others because they're unenders. They are unenders because they were mentors. We've talked about a couple of other qualities, but one of the qualities that made them unenders to me and to others is they were mentors. And if you and I can become mentors now on purpose and with purpose, passionately practical mentors, then we will become unending legacy leavers, unenders in the lives of many people that we encounter in this life. So here's the topic, mentors. We want to explore this. Now, in ancient literature, we see this idea expressed by Homer in the Odyssey. And in the Odyssey, mentor is the trusted friend of Odysseus, left in charge of the household during Odysseus's absence. And left in charge of the household during Odysseus's absence. Athenia, disguised as mentor, guides Odysseus's son in his search for his father. And while that happens, they provide encouragement and practical plans for dealing with personal dilemmas, which is something that mentors do. Now, the name mentor has been adopted in Latin and other languages, including English, over the years as a term meaning someone who imparts wisdom to and shares knowledge, most often with a less experienced individual. In Latin, it became a common noun meaning wise counselor. Mentor is an appropriate name for such a person because it probably meant advisor in Greek when we look back in the Greek meaning, and the root men literally means to think. So therefore, when I think of that, mentors are thinkers and doers who want to help you think for yourself and learn to do it yourself and others to do it themselves. That's what they want. Mentors are someone who teaches or gives help or advice to a less experienced and often younger person, but particularly a less experienced person in a particular area or discipline. Now, what I think of when I hear the term mentor are words like the synonyms for mentor, words like coach, counsel, guide, lead, pilot, which is a really interesting way of looking at it, shepherd, a shower or show, and a tutor. A mentor is ultimately someone who often sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself. And they come alongside to nurture that talent and see it grow. They're someone who calls out hope in you. They see something and they call it out. They call out hope in you. And a mentor is someone who says, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. And I'd be happy to show you how. And then let's do it together. There's this sense of showing you how and doing it together when we talk about mentors. A mentor uses their own past experience to encourage and support others in their journeys. Therefore, they're a wise and trusted counselor along the journey in life. But here's an important nuance as I've thought about this and just spent some time just brailing into this idea. Mentors are not masters. And this is really important. Mentors are not masters. Although most of them have mastered something, they do not want to master and control someone. And there's a subtlety there. They are masters of something. They've mastered something, but they don't use that mastery of something to master and control someone or someone else. There is not a control that happens in mentoring, but it's a wonderful cooperation and collaboration between people as learning happens and is exchanged. Concerning this, Benjamin Franklin said it this way: tell me and I might forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I will learn. Mentors invite and involve. They invite people into a relationship. They involve them in things and in practical learning, and that's how the learning happens. Now, some historic examples of mentors, as I began to look into this subject, there's some interesting historic examples of this. We have, from ancient times, back in about 400, back about 450 BC, 400 BC, we have Socrates mentoring Plato. We have Plato mentoring Aristotle. And this thing just continues on. There's a power that happens in these mentoring relationships of these amazing philosophers. If we look back into biblical times, we see Jesus. And again, you can see him as a religious figure you want, or just a great man, or you can see him how you want. But the reality is, according to the narrative, Jesus mentored his disciples. He taught them, he showed them how, he did it with them, and then he left them to do it without him. And so there's this interesting chain that happens in the mentoring. Gopal Krishna Gokal mentored Mahatma Gandhi. And we know Mahatma Gandhi, but most of us maybe don't know his mentor. And he mentored him for years in the background on issues of knowledge and of understanding of India itself and the issues facing common Indians. Mother Teresa, who dedicated her life to helping others and was recognized as one of the most admirable people of the 20th century, she led a remarkable and impactful life, but may not have achieved that level of remarkability and impact if it wasn't for her mentor. And her mentor, according to what she said, was Father Michael Vanderpeet. The two of them met one day waiting for a bus in Rome, and then they developed this relationship. And Father Vanderpeet began to bring mentoring to Mother Teresa. And then we see the fruit of that mentoring in all the great things that she did. In more recent times, Warren Buffett mentoring Bill Gates, the two of some of them, the most richest men on the planet. But Gates notes over the years that he turned to Buffett many times for advice, for mentoring on various subjects, and referred to Buffett as a one-of-a-kind person. And interestingly enough, Sigmund Freud mentored Carl Jung. Now, I imagine that those were rather interesting conversations, that's for sure. Could you imagine being part of those mentoring conversations? And beyond those historic figures, I've had the privilege of having many mentors in my life as well, and it's been such a powerful impact for me, particularly growing up without a father figure so much in my life. Mentors played a large role in my life from the very beginning, but also up until till today. And some of my mentors that I look back are people like a gentleman by the name of D.B. Scott, who I connected with when I was a publisher of a magazine, and he came in as a consultant, and he mentored me in the art and craft of consulting. It's why I eventually pursued it as a career. He mentored me, he showed me things, he gave me ways of looking at consulting, and I learned by watching and doing it with them, and then I could do it on my own. Russ Malatz, a gentleman who was for a couple of years when I worked without running my own business, I sold cars, and Russ Malatz was my first sales manager, and he taught me the art of prospecting, really hard prospecting. But he mentored me in that way. He showed me how to do it. He sat me down. He showed me how to do it, and he helped me, and he mentored me. Craig Sider and Tom Dow, two amazing men who mentored me in public speaking and in facilitation, and this was the beginning of an embryonic sense for me that communication would become my passionate expression for most of my adult life. After my encounter with these men in my late teens and into my 20s, those men mentored me in the art and craft of communicating and speaking to groups. A gentleman by the name of Dale Cornell comes to mind as a mentor. He mentored me in spiritual thinking and spiritual disciplines when I was a teenager and helped me see the world from a spiritual perspective for the first time in a very powerful way. As a teenager, but also Dale and I encountered each other when I was a younger child, and he also did the same. So I had two encounters with Dale at different times, both where he was mentoring me in spiritual thinking. Artaj Singh, Dr. Artaj Singh, who I worked with for a number of years, and we partnered together to develop a group of medical clinics. And Artaj, a phenomenal doctor, but amazing businessman, has an MBA from Kellogg, really powerful business mind, and he mentored me in the art and craft of negotiation, taught me how to negotiate business deals. I remember the best thing that Artaj ever taught me. He said, "Tim, really simple, never negotiate with yourself. Don't go first." You know what? Sounds simple, but it was one of some of the best advice. And I watched him negotiate and how he could bring people together and negotiate the position that he was looking for. Powerful mentor. I learned a lot from him. My big brothers, natural and acquired. And why I say that is that I acquired some big brothers through the Big Brother Association when I was younger. I had the privilege of being mentored by some big brothers in that association, and they taught me and mentored me in the way of being a better person, a better son, and a less angry person. When I was really angry as a child, they came into my life and helped me. I think a little bit later on, my brother Brian, who mentored me in the trades, particularly in the trade of drafting homes and houses, the trade of building, and we worked together. We had a business together when I was quite young, and those skills that he taught me, those hands-on skills, I use today. I've built houses. I've done my own renovations. I do all my own plumbing work. I do all my own cabinetry. I built furniture. Why? Because Brian mentored me. He invested in me. My brother Mark has mentored me in the art of fixing stuff, fixing shit. Mechanic by trade, small engine mechanic, taught at college, phenomenal guy. I remember many times when we first got married and didn't have a lot of money, when my washer broke or my dishwasher broke or my dryer broke, I'd call Mark up on the phone and he would lead me and mentor me through making that repair. And so over the years, I've learned to repair things because he mentored me. If my snowblower wasn't working, I didn't send it out for repair. Mark came over and mentored me and showed me how to fix it. And because he did that, he showed me how. I learned and I was able to fix my own things over the year. And then there's my brother Terry, who I've always gone to for mentoring and counsel when it came to business advice. He's a great guy, phenomenal business guy, had a great career. And when I need business advice or consulting advice, I go to him and I ask him questions, and he helps me and he helps me understand things and process things. He mentors me. My mom comes to mind for sure. My mom mentored me in the ways of what I would call compassionate generosity and how to help the marginalized in ways that brings honor and dignity. And I've mentioned before that, she took me to environments when I was a child and where she would be helping the poor, the marginalized. She would be helping at an old age home, volunteering, and she would take me with her and she'd show me. And she really mentored me in the ways of practicing compassionate generosity. And even though she's gone now, that is something that's marked me, and I'm hopefully now mentoring my kids in that. I think of the nurse practitioner we partnered with in Mozambique, Tracy. She mentored me in intercultural relationships and how to come as a American and set down my pride and my culture, my whiteness and my maleness and all these things that got in the way of working. And she showed me how to work interculturally, but she mentored me. She went ahead, and as I watched her in those situations, she mentored me. She showed me how. She allowed me the privilege to work in those environments, and then she released me. And in addition to Mozambique, I think of Charles, my Mozambican interpreter. He mentored me as well. Although I was the teacher and he was the translator, I learned a lot more from him than I think he ever learned from me. And he mentored me in the ways to understand and how to find my prejudices and kill them. Because I had prejudice and I didn't realize it. And Charles helped me see them and find them and eradicate them so I could do better work. And then lastly, from a mentoring perspective, I think of my partner. I think of my wife, Pam. Pam, over the years, we've been married almost 37 years, and Pam's mentored me and showed me how to partner well, how to serve others, how to be kind, and also really mentored me again in that spiritual component of my life. Mentored me in how to nurture the spiritual component of my life and not just see everything in through my head, but to also see things through my heart. So listen, if you haven't had a mentor like some of the ones I've described in my life, do me a favor. You know what? Maybe the challenge for you today in this conversation is go out and find a mentor. Go out, find somebody who can mentor you in something that you want to learn more about or become more proficient in, and invite them to invest in you. And maybe they will become then an unender for you and others. Now, I want to get really practical for a second. From my experience, uh, being mentored, and from my experience mentoring others over the years, let me just share some practical ways to enhance your ability to mentor that I've learned over the years and I've practiced. And again, if you want to be an unender in people's lives and you want to be a mentorer, which is part of an action of the unenders, here's some things I want to tell you. Number one, share your story and share stories. Share your story. Tell people the story. Don't sugarcoat it, but tell them the story. Tell them stories because stories help people learn and connect. Don't just tell them facts. Don't just give them information as you mentor them, but tell them stories and tell them your story, your journey of learning, because it's so often they think when they encounter you as a mentor that you've got it all put together, and that's just not the case. So share your story and share stories as a teaching mechanism. Share your failures and success. That's another thing I want to say. Share your failures and success. Don't make it sound like you've always been as good as you are, or successful. Don't sugarcoat it. Again, share your failings and your failures along the way, because that will make it more human. Make it human. When you make it more human as a mentor, it gains more trust and credibility with the people you're working with. And keep it real. Keep it real, because if you don't, people will see through that inauthenticity, and it will get in the way of your ability to mentor. The next thing I want to say is teach people to fish, don't just give them. And we know this old adage, if you give a man or a woman a fish, they eat for a day. If you teach them to fish, they eat for a lifetime. Teach them to fish. Teach them to find it for themselves so that they don't become too reliant on you. The goal of mentoring isn't to make people reliant on you, but it is to free them and find in them and call out what's in them and call them to higher levels of achievement and productivity and effect in the area that you're mentoring them. Next, just a thought. Give them tools, not just tactics. Don't give them tools, not just tactics. Don't just tell them what to do. Give them tools, practical tools that they can apply and use, and ultimately use a show and tell method, not a tell method. A show and tell. Show them and then tell them. And as you tell them, teach them and equip them, empower them to do it. The next thing I want to say on a practical level, if you want to be a better mentor and you want to then start leaving legacy as this unender who mentors, practice something that's really important. Check in with them along the way. Don't check up on them. Check in with them, but don't check up on them, because checking up on them sucks. Check in with them along their journey. And know when to push them out of the nest. Know when your time is done and you got to push them out of the nest. Connect them. Connect them with your network. Don't protect them, but connect them. And don't be the Wizard of Oz. And what I mean by that is, a little man behind the curtain who's pretending you're bigger than you are. No, let them behind the curtain and show them how you do it. And then they will be equipped. So here's my unending challenge to you this week as we finish up. Again, we're going to talk about several of these ideas over the next number of weeks. We're going to talk about this idea of being an unender, being a legacy leaver, and we're going to talk about qualities and characteristics that tend to impact people and leave legacy from my experience over my life. So again, here's my challenge, my unending challenge to you this week. Think about your mentors. If you've had mentors in your life, I want you to think about them. And this week is a challenge. What I want you to do, before they're dead and gone from this life, and it's too late, write them a thank you email or a letter or give them a call and thank them for the impact and imprint they left on and in you. That's challenge number one. Secondly, if you want to be a mentor, an unender mentor, go out and look for someone to mentor, someone to coach, someone to counsel, someone to guide, to lead, to pilot, to shepherd, to show, to tutor, someone to come alongside of to nurture their talent, a talent that you see in them and you want to see it grow. Go out and nurture it. Call it out. Call out hope. Someone who needs to hear you say, yes, you can do it, and I'd be happy to show you how, and let's do it together, and use your past experiences to encourage and support others in their journey. Unenders are mentors. And if you and I can become mentors now on purpose and with purpose, passionately practical mentors, we can and will become unending legacy leavers, unenders in the lives of many people we encounter in this life. Thanks for listening, and never forget, you're not getting out of here alive, but your reputation and your impact will outlive and outlast you.